Hello and welcome to Raise Your Vibes TV. I'm your host, Athena, wellness leader, Reiki master, author of award-winning book, Raise Your Vibes, and creator of Crystal Reiki Healer, bringing you spiritual education, meditations, the gift of Reiki, and inspirational guests from around the world to help guide you on your journey to live happier and healthier. Thank you for tuning in to Raise Your Vibes. It is such a gift to be sharing energy with you today. Today's show is sponsored by Westwood Clinic of West Los Angeles, where wellness is found with compassion, chiropractic care, and healing tools at the highest technology for your physical pain relief and healing. They're a certified MLS laser therapy facility, helping thousands of patients reclaim their health and overcome the limitations of living with pain. Find out more about this amazing healing space at westwoodclinic.com. And now we have a very special guest joining us all the way from Spain. Please welcome Nikolai Engelbrecht, a spiritual leader, breathwork teacher, former gangster, and author of his book, Gangsters N Gurus. So Nikolai, thank you so much for joining us here on Raise Your Vibes. I'm so grateful to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much. It is a big pleasure and honor to be here with you and to be part of your community and the beautiful mission that you have.
Thank you so much. Yes. Now we had the amazing opportunity to actually meet each other, which not too many of these, spirituals, podcasts, and TV shows get to the pleasure of doing these days at our Mind, Body, Spirit Wellbeing Festival in London. And I really think it's no coincidence that the universe brought us together. And I'm so excited that we'll get to do it again and meet again for the Mind, Body, Spirit in Birmingham. This is, it's so amazing, such a blessing to find and then really stay close to those that you have, that spiritual connection with. Do you believe, like I do, that people are, brought together on their paths for a reason as, part of our growth, or how do you view this?
Without a doubt, of course. I believe that we are all resonating at a certain frequency. And the more we practice, the more we pray, we meditate, we do our inner work, the higher that vibration goes up, the higher the frequency goes up. And naturally we find people that is in the same resonance with us, which is great because it means that we are constantly spiraling and we are meeting new people and we are connecting to new people and sometimes also letting go of old acquaintances so we can really resonate at that higher vibration. So
yes, absolutely. And some come in, at certain times for a certain purpose and, almost like they're like earth angels. They come in and they bless your life with a certain lesson or a tool. And then, and then poof, they're gone. And you have this wonderful memory of them, but they're maybe not in your circle because then you're part of, another path or another calling, right? So
they usually come at the perfect time.
Always all about divine timing, right? Yes, absolutely. So in your book, Gangsters N Gurus, oh my goodness. Yes. I had the pleasure, I got my autographed copy, which was so cool, or my husband did, I should say. But that was just an amazing thing. And in your book, so much, of the content and the stories that you have in there are really about this personal transformation. And I mean, you have quite the story yourself, right? So can you tell us how did your transformation or your enlightenment, if you will, begin?
I mean, it already began very early for me when I was around 8 years old. I was very close. One of my best friends, he died in a car accident, and that kind of shifted you could say my perception of reality. Like it naturally takes us when we get close to death, it naturally shifts our perception of what reality is. Sure. So it was kind of like the first interaction I had with a spiritual awakening at that age. And I was so lucky. I was so lucky that one of my father's best friends is a Buddhist monk. He's been traveling with the Dalai Lama for many, many years and studying in that path. So he was kind of there to catch me when no one else could really answer anything, and teaching me mantras and like sharing these different practices with me. So I already began using Buddhist prayers and mantras at that age as kind of a way to fall asleep. It was like I couldn't really sleep, of course. I was very sad, and there was all of this stuff. And in that very short time period, there was a few other people very close to me who passed away. I think it's mentioned in the book also. And it kind of just escalated into being very difficult to be in school and to like fit in. I mean, it was always difficult for me to fit into the very strict boxes of society, but it got even more difficult. And naturally, having this ability as an empath, as someone who can feel a lot, which I'm sure you're also one of, where you have no
idea. A blessing
and
a lesson.
For sure, a blessing and a lesson. For sure. Like this feeling of like, I had no idea when I walked into a room what I was actually experiencing. I was just experiencing so many different things and emotions and feelings and thoughts and
yes, so and children are so open to this and don't really have that filter. So it's really, or they haven't, been able to decipher yet, what's mine and what someone else's. And it's really so fortunate that you had someone there like guiding you and giving you some tools to, bring back that sense of peace to yourself. Because that so could have gone the other way, right? That so could have gone the other way.
It kind of did go the other way.
It kind of, well, yes, then later, I guess it did. So later you took a different path. So how did this happen? How did you go from this, learning mantras and the Buddhist way, as a child, which was incredible and overcoming your grief, but how did this then switch into your gangster lifestyle?
I mean, it was
quite a swap.
It was really like a gentle transformation. Like everything is usually like a gradual transformation, right? So it started, of course, very like innocent, being inspired by the American gang culture, rap music. And I think like a lot of kids in my age were at that time. There was 50 Cent coming. There was like all of these rappers that was really like coming up at the time. And then it starts off obviously with this first, I call it the first cigarette choice. Like there is that first choice where you choose to smoke a cigarette, even though it's not necessarily good for you. And that choice kind of progresses into smoking the first joint, maybe sniffing cocaine for the first time. And it kind of just like gradually builds up until the stage where you look back and you have no idea how did you come from this like point A to this point that you're in now. So for me, it was over a quite short period, very intense period from like 14 when I started dealing drugs up until...
Oh, that is very young. Yeah. Well, I guess that's when it starts, right? Because you're the ones that don't go to jail. So yeah, they start with the kids, definitely. Well, I'm sorry. I know our music was great, but here in America, but not the best role models.
Not always.
Yes. Yeah. Their lifestyle was maybe not what you want to follow. But then this led you, as you grew in this field and you did pretty well, right? From what your stories say in the book,
I did well up until a point, you could say, where it was really like, it was kind of I was never a gangster. I want to say that I was never like a gangster. I was more like a thug. I was like, I knew gangsters. I was connected to like real gangsters, people in suits and were very polite and nice and connected to different organizations, but obviously very deep roots in that world. I was more like a street thug. I was more like on the street. I was doing my things. I loved to party. I used a lot of drugs, a lot of altered state of consciousness experiences in that time also. And usually that is where it comes from, right? It's like it stems from this. We want to experience something beyond what we can see. And then drugs is, of course, a gateway to that. It has a very heavy bill to pay afterwards in terms of thought patterns and addictive processes. But it is an experience that is out of the common.
Absolutely. Yes. And then you talk about in your book how important it is to be your authentic self. So leading a spiritual life without actually changing who you are. So you made this transition from, childlike, speaking mantras to, selling drugs on the streets and getting into all kinds of trouble with yourself, but then kind of going back into this spiritual life. So how would you guide others to be their authentic selves, to allow themselves to be who they are without judging themselves, so they can, live an empowered spiritual life as well, that's right for them?
I think it's important to see that spirituality and ordinary life is not separate. It is the same thing. Like, people, like this is like the obstacle, you could say, of our world right now, is that we want to go into the masculine, which always wants to compartmentalize everything. But when we go more into a feminine approach, what we see is that everything in our life is spirituality. It is a spiritual practice. Like, we are spiritual beings. Being aware or unaware of it doesn't really matter, but like, we are all spiritual beings, from the person who drives the bus to the ones who stands in the supermarket to the guru who sits with millions of followers. All of us are spiritual beings and individuals. So by embracing that and by seeing like, oh, I am just as spiritual when I do my dishes as I am when I sit and sing my mantras, it's like, it's just a different, of course, discipline is a different process, but it's still an expression of spirit through us. And then memorizing, remembering that like, we all come as originals, like we all come as an original expression of spirit. So there is really no need to copy anyone. There is no need to like think like, oh, this person is more spiritual or this person is less spiritual. It's just like, we are all original expressions of spirit, and there is so many expressions, which is what makes it so beautiful. Like, so like going to a restaurant where you have like the best dishes with all the small components on it.
Yes. So we see many of these gurus, right? As I don't know if they refer to themselves as gurus or we refer to them as gurus, but like some of these people that have millions of followers, and they sit and they give speeches or talks. It's funny because it's interesting to see, do they consider themselves gurus? I'll have to speak to one and see how they feel about that, because like you said, we're all people together here on this earth, living this spiritual life in this human experience, right? So for those that are kind of looking for their mentor, you talk about mentors and how important that is in your book as well. How would we say someone can find someone who is, to differentiate between who's being authentic, a real guru, if you will, and who is, living a role or, play acting to, pretend to be a guru? How do we know the difference?
I mean, it requires courage, of course, for all of us. Like for me, I'm sure for you also, like it does require courage to step into the spiritual path as a seeker. From the beginning, it requires courage. And it requires even more courage, I think, to start sharing and teaching people, because there we really get to see all of our own like faults and imposter syndromes and like all of these thought processes that comes in that process of stepping into our full divine power. So as a student or as someone who is stepping into the path, I think it's again this thing about resonance. Like, do I really resonate with what this person is saying? Because there is so many different ways of how you should pray, how you should eat, what you should wear, what the color represent. And it's not that there is a right or wrong path. There's just so many different paths that it's important to really find, like, is this really resonating with me? And is the person who is sharing this, like, do they resonate with my personality? Do they resonate with my belief systems? And of course, it's not that we should find someone who just does the same as us, because we are like finding a driving instructor. We are finding someone who can drive the car, or we are finding someone who can take us into becoming a better healer or a better seer or whatever it is we wish to do. Right. But really having this, like, there has to be this resonance between teacher and student. For me, that is the most important. Like, with all my teachers, I had to really feel that, like, okay, I can resonate.
Connect with them. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That connection is so important. And if you find that you're not connecting with someone, that's okay. They're just maybe not the one for you. It doesn't mean necessarily they're bad or, they're just, that doesn't work for you. And where there's so many choices, just like with healing modalities, there's so many, different ways you can work with spiritual healing. I certainly do. Actually, there's a part in your book that really resonated with me too. It was in the manual section of your book, where it was step 8, and you list just for today. And I just was like, oh my goodness, this is how every Reiki precept begins. Just for today, I will not anger. Just for today, I will not worry. And I'm looking at this like, wow, this is, so it's maybe a different way you came to find this. But these are kind of the core, way of living in the Reiki path. Did you know that there was that similarity there when you were writing it?
No.
Oh, well, see, we learn something new every day. That is amazing. So yes, your section on just for today, this is a huge part of Reiki, because we put so much pressure on ourselves. I have to do this, that, and the other. And next thing you know, it becomes overwhelming. And this is for, breaking habits. This is for starting new beginnings. This is for really, everything in our life. And being able to kind of just take it down to, okay, well, just for today, in your book, just for today, I won't do drugs. And for someone else, just for today, with anxiety, I will not worry. And it kind of takes the pressure off of the person for that long term, what seems so overwhelming. Because when you're just starting something, it can be very overwhelming how far you have to go. It's only when you're already way down the path, you look back like, oh, wow, okay, look how far I've come. That's awesome.
Right? It's already been 15 years.
Yeah, how has the time flown? It's like every day is really long, but every year is really short. Which is just like an incredible phenomenon of life. And then, which leads us to really, well, what is time really? Because parts of it go by in an instant, and some of it is like drags forever. So I love that you had that connection. And it shows me too. And I learn with, every show I do, every person that I meet, I learn too that, we find very similar practices in each of these practices of tools, whether it's in yoga or in Buddhism, in Reiki, there's so many different ones we could go on, sound healing, all of them have their own connection, but it all has to do with our vibration and raising our vibration. So I always feel like however you get there, it doesn't matter so much. It's the journey that counts, and how we're raising our vibration and what works for us. So I thought that was really cool that you had, unbeknownst to you, the Reiki principles in there. So how do you apply this to your daily practice?
It's really like the principles of nature, I would say, because everything that we are studying, all of us, resonates with nature. So it's all in resonance with Mother Nature or whatever you can call it. Mother Nature, Father Nature, the nature,
Yes.
nature, God, whatever, but like
the powers that be. Yes, I love it.
All in resonance with that, right? And when you look at nature, everything is constantly flowing. There is not this like resistance that we see. It's like the waves hitting the rocks, and it's just going like. But it's not like the rocks are like, no, don't do that, don't hit me. They're just there. They're just being the rocks. The waves are being the waves. The rivers are being the river. And it's that same principle that we go into. It's like constantly saying like, okay, right now, it's now. I get angry right now. But then the next moment, you don't have to stay angry, because that moment already passed. Like that moment is already not there. That person who annoyed you is already a different person. They're already in the next moment. Our problem is that we keep holding on, right? Like in the mind, we keep holding and chewing on it. Like, no, but you said this thing like 5 years ago and it made me feel like this. And then I went into, and it like goes on and on and on. It's like we want to hold on to those
Right. Those grudges. Yeah, of course. Grudges are a really hard one for people to come over to, get past and move on from. Right. So it's so great. And I love this now that you have, what's happening right now in this moment, just for today and right now. They're really good, ways of guiding us to let go some of this negative thought practices and move towards more uplifting and positive ones, right? So I love that you have that in your book. You start out with a lot of stories in the first part, and then in the second part, you kind of go into what you call your method. How would you guide people to navigate through this book? Would you say, start to finish when they get to the method? Do you kind of pick what works for you, or is it a step-by-step process? How would that work?
If someone goes through the whole book step by step, that would be the only thing they had to do. But still, people want to sign up for courses and online sessions and all kind of stuff. But I really feel like that book was made so beautifully that it is already such a big awakening process for people who are just stepping in on the path. And Absolutely. It's like we can always go back to those principles of like these that you say, the different steps that are there, that is mentioned, the similarities in different practices and things we should look out for. And with those practices, the main practice is really, for me, has been like focus on the breath, through the breath. Yes. Bring yourself to the present moment, feel the energy, feel the heart rhythm. How is my heart going? Is it soft? Is it fast? And can I bring that unconditional love into the heart? So hopefully, if people really do the process in the book step by step, they will come to that point.
Oh, I love that. And now when writing this, what was, because you have the method, you have stories, what was the most challenging chapter or section in your book to write? And why was that a challenge for you?
So just before the book was it was almost finished. And it was just about to be released. Like we were like in this whole process, like the final editing.
Yes.
And one of the people who are mentioned there as a mentor, he is called Pops. He was my mentor in my life of crime, going into criminal lifestyles. And he was really teaching me the ways of how to operate, but he was also teaching me in many ways how to be a man. And he committed suicide just as the book was like about to really get out there. And obviously it was like a big thing for me. I really wanted to bring it to him and to show it, because he was one of the biggest people on my journey to step out of crime. Also, he was helping me a lot, as it's explained in the book, of like how he really steps in and brings me, like he both brought me into the darkness, but he also took me from that darkness and took me out and gave me that, you could say, like a chance to turn your life. So that big part of that book was really in his honoring, and it was something I had really looked forward to, of course, to share this and to give it. Of course, there is a connection now with the souls that we kind of get access to as we go deeper, but still there was this human aspect of just like I really wanted to have given him that book in the hand. So that kind of just before, and it was obviously doing this big situation in the world, so you couldn't really travel, but we still managed. We had a funeral for him with more than 400 people showing up. All the different gangs of Copenhagen and yoga teachers and spiritual people. There's like everyone from society was at that funeral, also showing like what kind of individual this person was, because he was really a community leader in many ways. So that was for sure the hardest part. Like I was crying when I was writing that chapter, because I had to sit and edit it, and like there's something.
Yes, and then rereading the story and the experience that you had with him, and then while also mourning. That's such a powerful moment, and definitely acknowledged, in the book. So I guess that was something you obviously would have had to add in, right, in the editing process. Like, hold on, we have to go back now.
And also, I really had to rethink, like, how does, like, because there was some stories about me and him that I ended up completely taking out, because I was like, okay, I don't want these things to be like the last.
His memory, yes.
Because all of a sudden it was like a memory of him and of that story. So it was like, it was a thing. And then just before we had finished the whole book, we had made the whole outline, and then I had a dream in the night that I had to rearrange the whole book. And I went into the document and I started changing the chapters. And I remember the publisher, he called me and he was like, what are you doing? He was like, this is like a finished document. And he was like, you can't start changing everything. And I was like, no, you don't understand. I had this dream and I have to change like the first chapter to the last. And I started like moving everything around. So it
Oh
added
my
up
goodness.
1 month. And I think it was more difficult for the people who had sat with the whole editing.
Absolutely. Yeah, your copy editor was having a meltdown. But you know what? That's what's so important too when you are writing your own book. It's really important. And it's again drawing back to this being authentic to yourself. Yes, we hand it over to, these new hands to rearrange and, make it all fit and look pretty. But these are our words. At the end of the day, this is our book. And it's important that it comes through the way we feel it's meant to, because at the end of the day, it's not the copy editor's name on there. It's our name, right? That's on the book. So I think it's wonderful that you still, pushed for that and made sure that it was read and written the way and in the order that you felt was, going to resonate the most for people who are reading it. So, cheers to you, because that's not everyone will do that. And what is the most recommended? Yeah. Of course, all future publishers are like, let's see. Oh my goodness. No, it's amazing. So because you really, really put your heart and soul into this, what would be the most important message that you want readers to take away from this book when they finish? No pressure.
Everything that you experience, literally everything that you experience, whatever you classify it as good or bad, is always a chance for you to step closer to spirit. No matter what, how it feels in the situation, how it feels in the moment, how we experience on our personality, it is a chance for us as individuals, as an individual, to step one step closer to spirit and to trust that divine force. And when we do that, everything works out. Like, that is where the miracle happens. And for me, that was like the biggest thing of the book, is to show like, look, I came from close to nothing and I have the life that I dream of. I couldn't even dream this life that I'm living. Like, it's like I lived the dream, like the life of miracles. Like, I'm living in the miracles.
Yes, creating one miracle at a time. I love it. And I love that. I couldn't even dream of this life. It's so much better than I could have dreamed of, right?
Sure.
Amazing. And that's all about trust and allowing us to, when we live that spiritual path, and, hold off on the judgment and let it come to you as it's meant to, and releasing that fear, it's a big part of it. Can you tell us, I always love to share on this show, a morning ritual, a go-to that you could share with us, with our audience, that can be helpful for them to raise their own vibes?
So one of my favorite morning rituals, you're gonna laugh now, is to wake up. I wake up preferably before everyone else, wherever I am. And I love to have my morning coffee in silence, in like full silence, just sitting and just having the coffee, not looking at the phone, not looking at anything. Preferably, it's not always possible if we're in a city, but preferably somewhere where we can like look out on nature. That is like one of my favorite morning rituals. But before that, I wanted to add that because I think it's a very important one, because many people, they do this thing with the coffee where they're like making it and they're drinking it and they're all up in the mind, and they don't understand why they have anxiety and their heart is like racing ahead and they're in 10,000 things. So it's like really taking the time to just enjoying it, tasting it.
A mindful moment with your coffee. I love that.
Not some bad coffee, like not this like powder coffee. Real coffee.
Yes, real coffee. Yes, absolutely. Well, that makes all the difference, right? Absolutely. Oh, I love that.
Before that, the first thing I do still every day when I wake up is to say the word Mana Oha, which means I trust. Oh. I trust. So it's like waking up with that feeling of I trust. And before I go to bed, I always sit or lie, and I start connecting to gratitude. What am I grateful for today? What
Yes.
beautiful things that happen today? And sometimes it can be very big things. Other times it can be something simple, like yesterday's one. There was 3 birds that came and they sat on this beautiful basin of water and they started like bathing. And they were like singing and they were like swimming like into the water and they were like washing themselves in the water. And I loved that moment. It was like so beautiful to see this like interaction with nature and water and energy. And
Oh, absolutely beautiful.
Big
Doesn't always have to be big things. Yes, my gratitude practice in the morning is my go-to before I do anything, before I get out of bed, before I check the phone, before I go to the bathroom, before I even like take the covers off. I take those few moments, that silence in the morning, and have my own gratitude practice. And I love this, and I love that then you after you do this, you go and you take your mindful moment of just quiet, of peace with your coffee. Because like you said, instead of running off, I mean, the day is there, it's waiting for you. There's going to be a million things to do, right? It's always waiting. There's always something that needs our attention. By just taking those few moments to ourselves really helps us to ground, to center, and raise our vibration with gratitude and a mindful moment. So I just love that. That's beautiful. Everybody needs to try that too. And it makes such a difference, because then when the world is ready to hit you with all these things, you're coming from this, place of, smooth, calm energy, right? It's makes it so much easier to make those dreams like you have come into your reality, right?
I used to do these like 3 or 4 hours rituals of breath work and qigong and singing mantras and like very like big, and it was great. I loved it. It was a great part of the journey. But I don't do it so intensely anymore. Now it's more soft, gentle practices. I think it depends on where we are on the path, what we have to do in those moments. And of course, the more we are tuning in, the more we are connecting, the easier it is to just establish that connection to divinity through prayers, through gratitude, through trust, through connection.
Trust. I love that. Yes, absolutely. And sometimes the more, if we have the time and we can indulge in those longer rituals or practices, it's amazing, such a blessing. But life doesn't always allow us those 3 hours to, tune into our spiritual self. And sometimes having those quick vibe fixes, right? Those quick little ones can still keep us on the right path and still keep our energy grounded and centered, and still raise our vibration without taking, more time than maybe we have in the moment. So I love that. Yeah, that's wonderful. So Nikolai, you've already done so many amazing things, lived so many paths and journeys within this one journey of your life, which everybody needs to read about in, Gangsters N Gurus. It's some incredible tales in there. But tell us, what can we expect to see that you're most excited for moving forward, or maybe on your bucket list?
So right now I'm doing 2 projects. I'm doing one project in Bali and one project in Spain. And it has been in my consciousness for 10 years to create this. And it is a co-creation of light workers, so people like yourself, people like me, coming together and creating an educational system for people to come into, where they stay for a few months and they get the top experts from their field, and they go through what I will call a basic education. It is not so basic, it is quite comprehensive, it is quite extensive.
Yeah, not quite basic,
but basic in the way that they will learn all the fundamental aspect of the spiritual journey through sound healers, through shamans, through qigong masters, through breathwork teachers, and really giving this like strong foundation for people, so that when they come out from that place, they are equipped and ready to start practicing at a very high level. Because I really saw that we have followed these like very strict traditions, where it's like very like single path, you could say. Right. And it got more and more boiled down into this like, I'm a Reiki master in 1.5 days, and it's like, okay, you did it for sure. You can probably do some stuff, but it takes a little bit more practice before you can actually perform, for most people, I would assume, at least. I'm not an expert on the topic, but most of these things, it takes more than 2 days to really embody it and to really like know what you do. So to bring people into nature has been one of my biggest things, and all of the things we are doing right now is completely off-grid. So it means when you go to that place, you'll be away from everything, and you'll be with experts such as yourself, hopefully, if you'll come.
Oh, thank you. I would love to.
People who will come and share their magic and share their medicine, so that the new generation, because this new generation of like 17 to 25, they are already very, very powerful. They are already much more tuned in than my generation were. So just to help that along, because the society, we are moving into this direction, and it's going relatively fast, this evolution of the consciousness. So to help that evolution is for sure my biggest excitement, is to create these two centers quite far away from each other on the earth, and have these 2 points where people can travel between and seek refuge and learn these principles of healing, of sacred geometry, of breathwork, of sounds.
Beautiful. Yes. And like you said, I mean, this is, you know, and likewise with Reiki, you know, it's a lifestyle, it's a change. And yes, you can take your workshop in a day, but it's what you do after that. I mean, I have a different Reiki path where I've studied with several masters, because I felt like I needed more, and I loved it so much. And I just thought, well, this isn't enough. I need to study with another one, and I want to learn a new perspective. And then I wanted to get as close to the teachings of Usui Sensei as I could, the founder or rediscoverer, as he called himself, to Reiki. And through doing that, it was amazing, because I got to pull different bits from each teacher. So even though it was the same practice I was learning, it really varied by the different teacher that I worked with. And I found the more self-work I did and the more time I did on my own, the more connected to it I became. It wasn't like, here's your certificate, there you go, you're a Reiki master, yay, that's awesome. Nope, it is totally a lifestyle. It's a practice. And when you do the work, you know, the more work you do on yourself and for this, you know, the better you are at it, right? Same with anything else, I would imagine. You know, sound healing, you can take a shop in a day, great. But you've got to sit there and work on that for, you know, for months, for years, till you really fine tune, you know, the connection of those sounds together. So, you know, I love that you'll have an opportunity for people to come and stay for a more extended time. That's really special and really amazing. You're able to do that. I love it. So please tell us, how would people find out about this? How would they, you know, sign up for this? How would they find and purchase your wonderful book and connect with you?
The book can be bought everywhere. So on any single webpage that sells books, they can just go and buy it. Amazon, whatever. I'm not going to mention all the names, but they can find it anywhere.
Great.
Right now, I've been still operating in a quite following the traditions of my mystics that is before me and behind me still. I'm still kind of in that process of that I take the individual. So that means if someone writes me, let's say on Instagram, on my email, or on my phone, if they have my phone number, then they are already approved for anything, because it means that they know someone very close to me that has given them. Very few people that has that number.
That honor, yes.
If they have a phone number, then they are already in. But if they're connecting through Instagram, which is the main like channel right now, I always make application processes for people, no matter what I do. If it's my retreats, I do like sacred pilgrimages in different places in Europe, in Egypt, where we walk through the land and we go to the temples. But there is always an application process at this stage, and it will continue like that. There will be web pages coming up to support a more easy process for me, more than for the
Very
person.
Good. So where is that? Where would they find you? At Nikolai on Instagram?
Engelbrecht on Instagram. Nikolai
Wonderful.
Engelbrecht with Instagram. So that is the best way to find and to see, and it's like constantly moving. At the time, I work with very selective clients, but I am gonna open up again. I used to do a lot of stuff for like the public, that they could come to workshops and courses.
Sure.
But I really wanted to manifest this vision of the schools so that it could come up, and that required me to kind of draw away from teaching hundreds of people every month live workshops.
Yes.
So now I'm working with a very specific group of people, but I still welcome everyone and I want to work with everyone. But of course, it's again important that there is resonance, because it's both energy from me to them and from them to me. And
absolutely. Well, I love that. I can't wait to hear more about this center. And I know you'll have it up on Instagram. I mean, you have beautiful things up there already, and your travels where people can see you going into, you know, pyramids and, you know, up on the mountain and next to waterfalls. I mean, it's aesthetically, it's just, you just feel better watching the page. So yes, everybody needs to go there. It just exudes out of it. I love it. It's been just such a gift to share energy with you here today. Thank you so much for being a part of Raise Your Vibes, and for the life-changing work that you do, and for elevating the vibration for those near and far. We are all connected, and when you vibe higher, everyone around you will too. Let us raise the vibes together as one. And to close, I will leave you with a sacred Reiki Reiju blessing for your highest good. You can learn more about how the beautiful Japanese meditation art of Reiki healing can create positive changes for your life at crystalreikihealer.com. Now, please take a moment to settle into your sacred space, whether it's in the car, parked on the side, or at home, or, you know, simply with your intention to receive a moment of positive healing vibration, relaxing your mind, body, and spirit. And I will begin by just sweeping the aura, releasing any negative emotions, negative thoughts, grounding you to our earth, and bringing that beautiful divine healing light up from the universe, through your crown, through your mind, showering your mind with the vibration of love. That everything you think, that everything you hear be from a place of love. Shining that divine healing light, that energy from our universe, from nature, from all of us together as one through your mind's eye, connecting your spirit. And to your mouth, that everything you speak comes from a place of love. And over your throat, that everything you communicate, hear, see, feel be from a place of love. And over your heart center, bringing in love to every being, every pore within your being, that you may shine that love and light out to the world. And to your hands, that everything you touch, everything you feel, be from a place of love. And then gathering that energy down from below your feet, up through your spirit, and showering over your being the energy of Reiki and love. Please bring your hands together in prayer position, as known as Gasao in Reiki, for a moment of gratitude. Gratitude for the gift of Reiki energy, for allowing yourself to receive this moment of peace. And then whenever you are ready, after the show, please have some cool water just to assist in grounding and continuing the healing process. I am your host, Crystal Reiki Healer, Athena Bahri, and I am so grateful to have shared energy together today with the wonderful support of our sponsor, Westwood Clinic. Living without pain is their gift to you. Join me here next week for another episode of Raise Your Vibes. Wishing you all so much love, healing, and many blessings. We would love to feature your brands and products on our show, Raise Your Vibes. Please contact info@raiseyourvibestv.com for sponsorship opportunities to raise awareness to your brand. Disclaimer: Reiki and other forms of energy healing shared on the show are meant to be supplementary healing practices. Always contact your medical licensed professional for questions or concerns regarding your physical, emotional, and mental health. Thank you.